We can't keep faking this marriage. It's tearing us apart.
It was your idea in the first place. Don't blame this on me.
The contract sat between them like a loaded gun. Elena Becker's hands trembled as she stared at the document that would change everything. 7 days of her life sold to a lie, bound in legalese and her boss's ruthless signature. Across the mahogany desk, Adrian Corleone didn't ask. He never asked. His dark eyes held that predatory stillness that made Wall Street executives confess their sins before he even opened his mouth. "Sign it." His voice cut through the silence of his penthouse office, sharp as the Manhattan skyline glittering 40 stories below. "Hey, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you're all doing amazing today. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to take you on a wild ride you won't want to miss. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends." Elena's fingers hovered over the pen. 3 years she'd worked for Adrian Corleone, 3 years of 16-hour days, canceled plans, and watching him destroy competitors with the same cold efficiency he used to order his coffee. She knew his schedule better than her own heartbeat. She knew he took his whiskey neat, his rage barely contained, and his secrets buried so deep even she couldn't excavate them all. But this was different. 7 days, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the thunder of her pulse. "You want me to pretend to be your wife for 7 days? I don't want anything, Miss Becker." He leaned back, his custom suit molding to shoulders that carried a $30 billion empire. "I'm giving you an opportunity. My grandfather's will stipulates I must be married to inherit controlling interest of Corleone Industries. The reading is in 1 week. You'll play the role. You'll be compensated generously." Compensated, as if money could erase what this would cost her. The city lights blurred in her peripheral vision. She'd built walls around her heart for good reason. Foster homes had taught her that people leave, that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. And now Adrian Corleone, the man who'd never once looked at her as anything but an efficient machine in heels, wanted her to pretend they shared a bed, shared a life, shared something real. $2 million, Elena. Her real name on his lips jolted her. He never used her first name. Never. "Sign it, and in 7 days, you walk away with enough money to start that charity you've been researching on your lunch breaks, the one you think I don't know about." Her breath caught. He knew. Of course he knew. Adrian Corleone knew everything. But as she picked up the pen, as the weight of it settled in her palm like a promise or a threat, one question burned through her mind with terrifying clarity. What happens when 7 days of pretending feels more real than anything she's ever known? The private jet hummed beneath them, carrying them toward the Corleone family estate in the Hamptons. Elena pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching Manhattan shrink behind them. "You'll need to know the basics." Adrian's voice pulled her back. He sat across from her, a tablet in his hands, but his eyes, those merciless dark eyes, were fixed on her face. "How we met, when I proposed, what I drink in the morning. Black coffee, 2 sugars. You think you take it straight, but you always add sugar when you think no one's watching." The words escaped before she could stop them. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? No. Adrian Corleone didn't do surprise. "My grandfather, Vincent Corleone, built this empire from nothing," he continued, as if she hadn't just exposed his secret. "He's old-fashioned, traditional. He believes marriage makes a man stable, trustworthy. Without a wife, the board can contest his will, and my cousin Julian will swoop in like the vulture he is." Elena studied him. Really studied him for the first time in 3 years. Everyone saw the ruthless CEO, the man who'd tripled his company's value before 35, but she saw the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers tightened imperceptibly on the tablet. He wasn't just protecting an empire. This was personal. "You loved him," she said softly. "Your grandfather." "Past tense. He died 6 months ago." Adrian's mask slipped back into place. "The will reading is just a formality." But Elena heard what he didn't say. "I never got to say goodbye." She knew about goodbyes, knew about loving people who disappeared. Her mother's face was a faded photograph she kept in her wallet, a woman who'd promised to come back and never did. 16 different foster homes had taught her that love was temporary, that people were temporary, that the only person she could depend on was herself. Why me? The question had haunted her since he'd slid that contract across his desk. "You could hire an actress. Someone trained for this." Adrian set down the tablet. When he looked at her, something in his gaze made her skin prickle with awareness. "Because my grandfather met you once. Last Christmas, when you brought me those files I'd forgotten. He said—" Adrian paused, and for the first time since she'd known him, he seemed uncertain. "He said you had kind eyes, that you looked at me like I was human, not just a bank account. He asked if we were together. I said no. He said pity." Elena's throat tightened. She remembered that night, remembered the elderly man with Adrian's same dark eyes, the way he'd smiled at her like she mattered. 3 weeks later he was gone, Adrian finished, and his will specified I needed to be married to someone who saw me, not my money. The jet engines hummed. The space between them felt suddenly smaller, charged with something Elena didn't dare name. "So," she whispered, "what happens when your family realizes I'm nobody, that I don't belong in your world?" Adrian's lips curved into something too sharp to be a smile. "Then we'll make them believe you do." The Corleone estate rose from the coastal landscape like a monument to old money, all stone columns and manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain than Elena had earned in her lifetime. Her stomach twisted as the car rolled through iron gates that looked designed to keep people like her out. "Smile," Adrian murmured, his hand suddenly covering hers. "We're madly in love, remember?" His touch burned through her skin. 3 years of carefully maintained professional distance, and now his fingers intertwined with hers like they'd done this 1,000 times. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman emerged, tall, blonde, devastatingly beautiful in a way that made Elena feel like a fraud in her department store dress. But it was the familiarity in her eyes when she looked at Adrian that sent ice through Elena's veins. "Adrian?" The woman's voice was honey and razors. "You actually brought her." "Sophia." Adrian's hand tightened on Elena's. "Meet my wife, Elena. Elena, this is Sophia Ripley, my ex-fiancée." The world tilted. Ex-fiancée. He'd never mentioned an ex-fiancée. Sophia's smile was poison-sweet. "Wife? How sudden. We only broke up 8 months ago, Adrian. Quite the whirlwind romance." Her gaze raked over Elena like she was calculating her net worth and finding it lacking. "Let me guess. You met at the office? How delightfully predictable." "Sophia works for Julian now," Adrian said, his voice flat. "Isn't that right?" The pieces clicked together in Elena's mind. Julian, the cousin trying to steal Adrian's inheritance, and Sophia, the ex-fiancée who'd left him and now worked for his enemy. "I work with Julian," Sophia corrected, stepping closer. Too close. "And I have to say, I'm fascinated to meet the woman who managed to get a ring on Adrian Corleone's finger. Tell me, Elena." She said her name like it was a joke. "What's your secret? Because in the 3 years we were together, he made it very clear he'd never marry." Elena's heart hammered. 3 years, the same amount of time Elena had worked for him. Before she could respond, Adrian pulled her against him. His arm wrapped around her waist, his body solid and warm against hers, and when she looked up, his eyes held a warning. "Play along." "The secret," Adrian said, his voice dropping to something intimate, dangerous, "is that Elena sees me, really sees me, something you never did." Then he kissed her. The world exploded into sensation, his lips claiming hers with a possession that felt terrifyingly real, his hand tangling in her hair, the barely audible sound he made when she gasped against his mouth. This wasn't a performance. This was something else entirely. When he pulled back, Elena's mind spun. She could taste him, feel the thundering of his heart against hers. Sophia's perfect composure had cracked. "Well," she said, voice brittle, "I can't wait to see how long this lasts. 7 days should be illuminating." 7 days. She'd said 7 days. How could she possibly know? Elena's assigned bedroom was a museum of luxury. Silk sheets, antique furniture, and a view of the ocean that should have calmed her racing thoughts. Instead, she paced, her mind replaying Sophia's words on an endless loop. 7 days should be illuminating. A knock interrupted her spiral. Adrian entered without waiting for permission, already loosening his tie. His jaw was tight, anger simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "She knows," Elena said immediately. "Sophia knows this is fake. Sophia suspects." Adrian crossed to the window, putting distance between them. "She's fishing. Julian probably sent her to rattle us." "Well, it's working." Elena's hands trembled as she unclasped her watch, a nervous habit. "That kiss was necessary." His voice was clipped, professional. Back to the boss, she knew. "My family needed to believe we're convincing." "Convincing?" "Right. Because the way her entire body had ignited at his touch was just good acting." "We're sharing a suite," he continued. "Separate bedrooms, but connected. My grandmother, Isabella, arrives tomorrow. She's perceptive. We'll need to be more careful." "More careful than pretending to be married?" The hysteria bubbling in Elena's chest finally broke free. "Adrian, I don't know how to do this. I've never even had a real relationship. How am I supposed to fake one with you in front of people who actually know what love looks like?" The confession hung between them, too raw, too honest. Adrian turned, and something in his expression softened. "Why not?" "Why not what?" "Why have you never had a real relationship?" Elena's throat tightened. "Because people leave. They always leave." Understanding flickered in his eyes. He crossed the room slowly, deliberately, until he stood close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark irises. "My parents died when I was 12, he said quietly. "Car accident. 1 minute I had a family, the next I had a grandfather and an empire I never asked for. So I learned not to need anyone, not to want anyone. It was safer." Her breath caught. "Was?" His hand lifted, hesitating inches from her face before falling back to his side. "Get some sleep, Elena. Tomorrow we convince my grandmother we're in love." He disappeared into his adjoining room, leaving her alone with the echo of that almost touch and a dangerous question blooming in her chest. The next morning, Elena woke to find a garment bag hanging on her door. Inside, a dress worth more than her car. Deep emerald silk that felt like water against her skin. A note in Adrian's sharp handwriting. "Wear this. Grandmother arrives at noon. but it was the postscript that made her heart stutter. You look beautiful when you sleep. I shouldn't have watched. I couldn't help it. The paper slipped from her fingers. What kind of game was he playing? And why did part of her want to lose? Isabella Corleone was 90 pounds of Italian steel wrapped in Chanel. Her eyes, sharp as her late husband's, missed nothing as she studied Elena across the lunch table. So, Isabella said, her accent thick with old-world charm, you love my grandson. It wasn't a question. Yes, Elena managed, feeling Adrian's presence beside her like a live wire. Very much. Ben, then you won't mind proving it. Isabella's smile was knowing. Vincent's will requires more than a marriage certificate. It requires proof of, how do you say, genuine affection. He was clever, my Vincent. He knew Adrian might try something like this. Elena's blood turned to ice. What kind of proof? Adrian's voice was dangerously calm. His lawyer has been observing you since you arrived, watching how you interact, how you touch, how you look at each other when you think no one sees. Isabella sipped her wine. He will interview you separately. Ask intimate questions only real spouses would know. If he suspects fraud, the inheritance goes to Julian. The table fell silent except for the ocean waves crashing outside. When? Elena whispered. Tonight, after dinner. Isabella's gaze softened slightly. I hope you are who my Vincent believed you were, Cara. Because my grandson needs someone real in his life of pretty lies. The afternoon passed in a blur of panic. Adrian pulled Elena into the estate's library, his composure finally cracking. We're not prepared for this, she said, pacing between leather-bound books. We don't know anything real about each other. Not really. Then we learn. Now. He grabbed a notepad. Favorite color? This is insane. Elena, favorite color. Blue, ocean blue. She met his eyes. Like your tie at last year's Christmas party. You wore it because your grandfather gave it to you, and I remember thinking it was the only time I'd ever seen you wear something for sentimental reasons rather than power. Adrian stared at her. You noticed that? I notice everything about you. The admission escaped before she could stop it. Your coffee order. How you tap your pen 3 times before signing important documents. The way you stand at the window when you're worried but won't admit it. I've spent 3 years learning to read you, Adrian. I never thought you noticed me back. Never noticed you? His laugh was harsh. Elena, you're all I notice. Do you know why I never dated after Sophia? Why I worked late every night you worked late? Why I knew about your charity research? Her heart hammered against her ribs. Because every time I looked at you, I saw someone good, someone real, and I couldn't have you, not ethically, not while you worked for me, not when I'd just ruin you like I ruin everything I touch. He stepped closer. But God, I wanted to. The confession hung between them like a detonated bomb. Adrian! The library door burst open. Sophia stood there, phone in hand, her smile triumphant. How touching, she purred. Julian will love hearing this recording. A boss manipulating his assistant into a fake marriage. The press will destroy you. The phone glinted in Sophia's manicured hand like a weapon. Elena's world compressed to that single device, the recording that would destroy everything. You're bluffing, Adrian said, but Elena heard the tension underneath. Am I? Sophia's smile widened. I've been recording since yesterday, every slip, every moment you two forgot to act like a real couple, the hesitation, the awkwardness, and now this, a confession that it's all fake. She glanced at Elena with mock sympathy. Poor thing. Did you actually believe he wanted you? The words hit like physical blows. Elena's chest constricted, old wounds ripping open. Of course he didn't want her. Not really. She was the assistant, the nobody, the girl from foster care who'd never belonged anywhere. What do you want? Adrian's voice was lethal. What I've always wanted. You. Sophia stepped closer. Drop this charade. Admit the marriage is fake. Let Julian have the company and come back to me. We were good together, Adrian. We made sense. We made sense? Adrian's laugh was bitter. You left me the day after my grandfather's funeral. You said I was too cold, too broken. Then you went to work for Julian within a week. I made a mistake. No, I made the mistake. Adrian's hand found Elena's, but she pulled away. She couldn't do this. Couldn't be part of whatever game they were playing. Elena, he turned to her, and the desperation in his eyes almost broke her. Delete the recording, Elena said to Sophia, her voice hollow. I'll disappear. Tell the lawyer I left him, that the marriage was a mistake. Adrian can say I was unstable, that it fell apart. You get what you want. Elena, no. Adrian grabbed her arm. It's over. She couldn't look at him. If she looked at him, she'd shatter. This was always going to end. At least this way you're not destroyed. I don't care about the company. Yes, you do. It's all you have left of him, of your grandfather. Tears burned her eyes. Let me go, Adrian. The silence stretched like a chasm. Fine, Sophia said. You have 1 hour to pack. And Adrian, when this all blows over, call me. We'll fix this mess together. She left. Victorious? Elena turned to the man she'd spent 3 years protecting, 3 days pretending to love, and 1 devastating afternoon discovering she actually did. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't, his voice cracked. Don't apologize for saving me. I'm not saving you. I'm running, like I always do. She backed toward the door, because staying means risking everything, and I've never had anything worth risking before. So I learned to leave first, before they could leave me. Elena, but she was already gone, racing up the stairs to pack, to escape, to protect her heart before it cost her everything. She didn't see Adrian sink to his knees in the library, didn't hear him whisper, I love you. Elena's suitcase lay open on the bed, half-packed, when Isabella appeared in the doorway. Running? The old woman's voice was sharp. That's not the girl I see. You don't know me. Elena shoved clothes into the bag, not caring what wrinkled. No? I know you reorganized Vincent's medication schedule when the nurses missed doses, Adrian told me. I know you worked Christmas Eve last year so the other assistants could see their families. I know you gave your bonus to a children's shelter. Isabella moved closer. I know what it looks like when someone loves my grandson. I've been watching you for 2 days, Kara. This is not fake. Elena's hands stilled. It doesn't matter. Doesn't it? Isabella held up her phone. Sophia sent this to Julian, but Julian sent it to me. My nephew is many things, but he loved his Uncle Vincent. He won't use this recording. Hope flared, dangerous and bright. What? Julian called me an hour ago. He said Sophia went rogue. She's been embezzling from his company, and he was building a case against her. She panicked when she realized Adrian's marriage might actually be legitimate. She needed chaos. Isabella's smile was wolfish. The recording is worthless. Julian deleted his copy and fired her. She has nothing. Elena's knees buckled. She sat hard on the bed. But here is what I know, Isabella continued, sitting beside her. You were ready to sacrifice everything for Adrian, and downstairs he is threatening to burn his entire empire to the ground if it means keeping you safe. He called his lawyers. He was going to give Julian everything. The company, the money, all of it, if Sophia agreed to leave you alone. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. He can't do that. His grandfather would be proud. Isabella took her hand. Vincent didn't care about the company, Cara. He cared that Adrian learned to love something more than money and power. He wanted Adrian to understand that the greatest inheritance isn't wealth, it's finding someone worth fighting for. Elena's voice broke. I don't know how to do this, how to stay when everyone I've ever loved has left. Then you learn. Together. Isabella squeezed her hand. That is what love is. Choosing to stay when running would be easier. My Vincent taught me that 60 years ago, and I've never regretted it. Elena stood, her decision crystallizing with terrifying clarity. She ran, not away, but toward. Down the stairs, through the halls, until she found Adrian in the library, phone pressed to his ear, his voice wrecked as he negotiated away his birthright. Stop, she said. He turned, and the devastation in his eyes nearly destroyed her. Don't give up everything for me, she whispered. Fight for us instead. The phone fell from his hand. In 3 strides, he crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. I choose you, she said against his chest. I choose staying. Elena, no more running, for either of us. The lawyer arrived at sunset, leather briefcase in hand, expression professionally neutral. Elena sat beside Adrian on the terrace, their fingers intertwined, not for show this time, but because letting go felt impossible. Mr. and Mrs. Corleone, the lawyer began, setting up a recording device, I'll be conducting separate interviews to verify the authenticity of your marriage per Vincent Corleone's requirements. Actually, Isabella interrupted, sweeping onto the terrace with Julian behind her. That won't be necessary. The lawyer frowned. Mrs. Corleone, the will specifically, my husband's will required proof of genuine love. I have it. Isabella placed a letter on the table, Vincent's handwriting unmistakable across aged paper. Vincent wrote this before he died. He knew Adrian would try to circumvent the marriage clause, so he gave me final authority to determine what constitutes a legitimate union. Adrian's hand tightened on Elena's. Vincent watched you with Miss Becker last Christmas, Isabella continued. He saw how you looked at her when she wasn't watching, how she softened your edges. He told me then that if you ever found the courage to choose her over your empire, you'd have proven yourself worthy of both. Her eyes glistened. Today, you chose her. You were willing to sacrifice everything. That is the proof Vincent required. The lawyer cleared his throat. So the inheritance goes to Adrian. All of it. Isabella smiled. Congratulations, grandson. You finally understand what true wealth means. Julian stepped forward, and Adrian tensed, but his cousin's expression was sincere. Sophia played us both, Adrian. I never wanted the company. I wanted you to stop being so damn alone. He glanced at Elena. Looks like you finally figured that out. Relief crashed through Elena like a wave. It was over. They'd won. But as the lawyer packed his briefcase and Isabella ushered everyone inside for champagne, Adrian pulled Elena back. Wait, he said, his voice rough. He dropped to one knee and Elena's heart stopped. This started as a lie, a contract, 7 days of pretending. He pulled a ring from his pocket, not the fake one he'd given her 3 days ago, but something vintage, beautiful, clearly meaningful. This was my grandmother's. Vincent gave it to her when they had nothing but love and hope. Tears blurred Elena's vision. I don't want 7 days, Elena. I don't want a contract or a performance. I want every morning, every argument, every moment of choosing each other when it's hard." His eyes held hers with devastating honesty. "Marry me. For real this time. Not for an inheritance or a scheme, but because I love you, because you see me, and I see you, and I can't imagine my life without you in it." Elena pulled him to his feet and kissed him, deep, certain, real. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes to all of it, to staying, to us, to forever." The ocean crashed below them as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of hope. 6 months later, Elena stood in the same library where everything had almost fallen apart, but now it was transformed, filled with flowers, intimate lighting, and the people who'd become her family. Isabella dabbed her eyes as the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. For real this time. Julian cheered. Adrian's business partners looked genuinely moved, and the staff from Corleone Industries, the people Elena had worked alongside for 3 years, applauded as Adrian kissed her with a tenderness that still made her knees weak. "Mrs. Corleone," he murmured against her lips. "Again." "I liked it better the first time," she teased. "More drama." His laugh rumbled through her. "I'll give you drama." The reception spilled onto the terrace. Elena had insisted on simplicity, good food, better wine, and the people they actually cared about. No performance, no pretending, just truth. "You know what's funny?" Elena said later, dancing with Adrian under string lights as the ocean whispered below them. "I spent 3 years thinking I was invisible to you. You were never invisible." His hand tightened on her waist. "You were terrifying. This brilliant, kind woman who made me want things I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. And now? Now I wake up every morning grateful you chose to stay." He kissed her forehead. "The charity launches next month. You're going to change lives, Elena." The foster care initiative, her dream, funded by both her contract money and Adrian's enthusiastic investment, helping kids like she'd been, showing them they mattered. "We're going to change lives," she corrected. "Together." Isabella approached with champagne and wisdom. "Vincent would be so proud," she said, tears in her eyes. "Not because you saved the company, Adrian, but because you saved yourself." Adrian pulled his grandmother into their embrace, and Elena felt the last piece of her guarded heart crack open. This was family. Real, messy, permanent family. Later, as guests departed and stars emerged, Adrian led Elena to the library balcony, their place now, where everything had shifted. "I have something for you," he said, producing an envelope. Inside, a deed to a house. Not a mansion, but a cozy Victorian in the city, with a garden and space for the family she'd never let herself dream about. "It's ours," he said softly. "A place that's just us. No ghosts, no expectations. Somewhere we can build our own memories." Elena's tears fell freely. "How did you know?" "Because I spent 3 years learning to read you, too." He wiped her cheeks gently. "And I plan to spend the rest of my life proving that people don't always leave. Some of us stay, some of us fight, some of us choose love even when it's terrifying." She kissed him as the ocean wind carried away her old fears, replacing them with something infinitely better: hope, home, and a love that was finally, beautifully real.